If you've recently felt the sudden, overwhelming urge to delete all your contacts, quit social media, and just disappear, I need you to know that you aren't depressed, you aren't antisocial, and you certainly aren't broken. Your brain is actually trying to protect a highly advanced, incredibly rare evolutionary trait. Let me ask you a question. If you put down your phone right now, sat in a chair, and did absolutely nothing, how long do you think you could last? 10 minutes? 5? Does the thought of just sitting there for 1 minute in total silence make you feel restless? But think back. There was a time when you knew exactly how to do that. You lived in a world where you memorized 20 different phone numbers, where you'd show up at a spot, and if your friend was late, you just waited. You watched the cars go by. You looked at the sky. If you got lost, you didn't have a blue dot on a screen. You had to walk into a store and ask a stranger for directions. Before algorithms started tracking your every click, deciding your tastes, and feeding you a never-ending scroll of dopamine, you found your own music. You hunted for your own information. You learned to endure boredom. If this hits home for you, there is a very high probability you were born between 1977 and 1985. Psychologists have a specific name for you. You are a Xennial. You aren't quite Generation X, and you definitely aren't a Millennial. You are a microgeneration. You are the bridge. And most importantly, you are the last human beings in history to remember life before the algorithm. You lived an entirely analog childhood, but you transitioned into a fully digital adulthood. You played in the dirt until the streetlights came on, but you also coded HTML for your MySpace page. You remember the screech of dial-up internet, but you also navigate cloud computing today seamlessly. This dual existence is completely unique to you. No generation before you had the internet in their 20s, and no generation after you remembers a world without it. And this exact experience has left a permanent, invisible mark on your psyche. Today, I am going to break down the 6 psychological traits of the Xennial mind. And I need you to pay very close attention to trait number 3, because it is going to explain exactly why you've been feeling so completely exhausted, drained, and disconnected lately. Trait number 1 is your analog reset ability. The modern digital world tells us that doing nothing is a waste of time. If you aren't listening to a podcast while answering emails and checking text messages, you're falling behind. But your brain remembers how to be bored. You survived entire summer vacations without a smartphone in your hand. You know what it feels like to just exist in a space without consuming content. Neurologically speaking, this activates what scientists call the default mode network. It's the brain's ultimate creative and restorative state. While everyone younger than you is desperately scrolling TikTok to find a momentary break from reality, your brain instinctively knows how to hit the hard reset button. Your ability to disconnect, to just put the phone in a drawer and walk away, isn't a flaw. It's a superpower that digital natives do not possess. Trait number 2 is your resistance to curation. You grew up before the edit. You remember a time before every single moment of human existence was sponsored, heavily filtered, and optimized for maximum likes. Because of this, your internal BS meter is incredibly sensitive. When you look at social media, you see right through the fake perfection. You remember when advertising was just a commercial on TV, not a carefully disguised lifestyle vlog. This creates a really painful psychological tension for you today. You want to disconnect from social media because you see the illusion for what it is, but you stay connected because you fear being entirely left behind in a digital world. That friction you feel, that exhaustion when you look at an influencer's feed, that's not you being cynical. That's just your brain recognizing what is actually real and what is fabricated. Now, trait number 3, this is the one that explains your daily exhaustion. You are the hybrid interpreter. You are the ultimate translator in the modern workplace and in modern relationships. You sit perfectly between boomer bosses who demand face-to-face meetings, physical handshakes, and printed reports, and Gen Z colleagues who get actual clinical anxiety if you call them on the phone without texting first. You know how to write a formal, structured memo, but you also know how to manage a fast-paced Slack channel. You speak both the analog and the digital languages fluently. But here is the problem: constantly code switching between these two worlds drains your social battery faster than anything else. You are exhausted because you are carrying the communication weight of 3 different generations on your shoulders. You are the only one who can talk to everyone, which means everyone relies on you to make things make sense. Trait number 4 is the algorithmic hangover. When a 20-year-old digital native spends 3 hours doom scrolling, they usually just put the phone down and move on to the next digital thing. But when you do it, you feel a deep, heavy emptiness afterward. It almost feels like a physical hangover. Why? Because your brain has a baseline for peace. You remember the profound silence of the offline world. Because you know what genuine quiet feels like, the dopamine crash from digital overload hits your nervous system 10 times harder. You are comparing the noise of the internet to the quiet of your childhood, and the contrast is jarring. When you feel that sudden disgust after scrolling for too long, it's your mind begging you to return to that baseline. Trait number 5 is independent information processing. You didn't have Google in your pocket to settle a debate at the dinner table. If you wanted to know something, you actually had to hunt for answers. You went to the library. You opened an encyclopedia. You learned to work for your information. Today, algorithms try to spoon-feed you the best answer or the most viral opinion. But the Xennial mind naturally distrusts the first search result. You cross-reference, you verify, you ask yourself, who is funding this? In an era of artificial intelligence, deepfakes, and rampant misinformation, your inherent skepticism is the most valuable survival tool you own. You don't just consume information, you interrogate it. Finally, trait number 6, and this is perhaps the most difficult one to carry, the loneliness of the bridge. You are the bridge between the analog past and the digital future. But the hard truth about being a bridge is that people walk all over you to get to the other side. You are constantly translating the world. You explain how to use new apps to your aging parents, and you try to explain the value of looking someone in the eye to your kids. You understand everyone, but sometimes it feels like nobody truly understands you. You're considered too digital and fast-paced for the old guard, but too analog and slow for the youth. It's an incredibly isolating place to stand. You belong to both worlds, which means you never fully feel at home in either. But I need you to listen to me carefully right now. Not fitting perfectly into this hyperspeed, algorithm-driven digital world is not a failure. It is the absolute proof of your humanity. You carry the memory of warm, patient waiting. You remember the beauty of serendipity, running into someone by chance, discovering a hidden track on a CD, getting lost and finding a new path. You remember a world that moved at a human pace. AI can learn to code, it can learn to write, and it can learn to generate images, but it can never ever learn what that feels like. When the algorithm gets too loud, when the notifications become too much, step back into your memory. Put the phone down. Let yourself be bored. It's not running away. It's taking back your control. You are the anchor, keeping us tethered to reality. Now, I want to hear from you. Gen Z's highly curated, text-only way of living isn't necessarily wrong, but to a Xennial brain, it can often feel incredibly dismissive. Do you agree? What is the one modern digital habit that absolutely drives your analog brain crazy? Or what is your favorite analog memory from before the internet took over? Let's debate it down in the comments. I'm going to be reading and replying to as many of your stories as I can. Our memories are valid, and I want to read yours. If this video helped you understand yourself a little better today, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next deep dive into human psychology. I'll see you in the next video.